was a cold winter evening on the 10th of December in the year 1914, 5:30 p.m. to be precise, when the famous inventor and scientist, more so, Thomas Edison, stood in front of his lab and watched it burn down in flames. All that he had worked for, all of his researches, all of the things that he was working on at the time, all burnt down to ashes. Now, whilst the fire was still burning, his fire department tried all that they could. His fire department in his laboratory now tried all they could to put the fire out, but they couldn't. And standing there, he watched his life's achievements and his life's work burn, not able to do anything. Now, beside him on that day was his 24-year-old son, Charles. Charles was perplexed. He was confused and troubled about everything. But to his greatest surprise, his father turned to him, now Thomas Edison that is, turned to him and said to him, "Charles, quickly go get your mother and her friends. Let her come see this, because she will never see a fire like this again in her lifetime." Charles was confused. What is this old man saying? And seeing that the boy hesitated to go deliver the message, he looked at him and said to him, "It's all right. We are just losing a whole pile of rubbish." Now, there were reporters everywhere reporting what was happening, and they asked him that day what he was going to do. And he said, of course, he was exhausted from seeing everything, being around to see everything burn down, and all of that, but that he was not going to let any of that get to him, and that he was going to begin the work of rebuilding the laboratory the following day. Now, guess what? The following day, Thomas Edison returned to that laboratory. They began work at rebuilding the lab. And now, not only did they rebuild the lab, he did not sack one single worker. Not long after, the lab was completed and invented the phonograph. You see, we might not be able to determine our circumstances, as oftentimes fate determines our circumstances per se. But the truth of the matter is that we define our circumstances. It doesn't matter how bad the ordeal is. The truth of the matter is that those circumstances in themselves do not have the ability to define us, but we have the ability to define them. And much of what comes out of every circumstance is as a result of how we define those circumstances. If it's a terrible ordeal, how do you approach it? What do you see it to be? What approach do you give to it? So your business is crashing and things are not working. What is your disposition to it? This is not some motivational stuff. This is real. You see, if you approach disaster and approach failures and all of that with a positive mindset of learning and this determination to move on, the truth of the matter is that none of it will be able to stop you. The reason why our failures and our mistakes and our challenges stop a whole lot of us is because we see them as stoppages. We don't see them as lessons to be learned. I remember very well that the most trying time of my life, the most challenging point of my life, which is one of my most defining moments, what helped me was the ability to be able to define it as a phase of learning. And when I was able to grasp it as a phase of learning, I quickly picked up from that point and I drove my energy positively into building myself, learning the lessons that I needed to learn from it, pushing further, defining myself by the future that I see. And I began to make progress. I rose above it, miles ahead of it. You see, if you keep your head down and push your head down because of the mistakes that you have made and because of the disaster that has befallen you, because of the bad things that have happened to you, truly you will not be able to make progress. What am I saying? Like Thomas Edison, you have got to learn to define your circumstances and not let your circumstances define you. It don't matter how hard and how terrible they are. Don't let them define you. You define your circumstances. And if you're able to do that, I can tell you by God that you will make tremendous progress. If you don't have as many customers as you want in your business, you don't have as many clients as you want for the services that you render, how do you see it? Do you allow it get you down? If people have rejected you, if people have pushed your ideas away, how do you see it? How do you approach it? That is what really determines your progress or your failure, and not the circumstances. So, decide for yourself today to define your circumstances by what you want it to be.